Hello everyone, this is Danon with Headstrong Hats. In today's video, I want to go over the process I use to sew this woven elastic into the bottom brim. I know on the template cutout, it has the option to do some folding tabs, but those can be kind of discomforting, and I always just like to sew in some elastic. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how I do that on this Modelo cowboy hat. So the process of sewing this elastic in, all it involves is making one lap around the brim without stitching anything to it. I just put an empty line around there as a guideline, and then I come back and do a second one with adding this elastic. And the way I have my sewing machine set up is I started off on the 0 setting, and that pitches my needle all the way to the right. And then when I go to sew the elastic in, I move my dial over to the 3, and that pitches my needle over to the left. And I can use not this arrow, but there's a little cutout in my presser foot that I'll run the stitching on that guideline there, and it will give me just enough spacing to attach the elastic and keep everything in a nice uniform line. Also, this is just a little piece of scrap left over from cutting up the cardboard box, and I'm going to insert it underneath the elastic because it will help the needle penetrate through the elastic without pushing the bands through and help eliminate the looping of the thread. Okay, so this is going to be the first lap around the inside, and I've got the sewing machine set on 0. I'm not going to back stitch this first one. I'm just going to run it around, and then when I come back around to it, I'll go back over this one to lock the stitch in place. And basically all I'm doing is lining up the edge of this presser foot with this edge of the brim and using that as a guide to move the hat around. And it will make sure that the thread stays an equal distance away from the edge at all times. Do a back stitch over it. We can remove this excess thread that's hanging off. I've got my little cardboard piece ready to go. I'm going to set that right here. What I usually do is I extend the elastic just past that center part, probably maybe 1/4 of an inch, and then slide your needle over to the left. I have my setting on the 3. And I'm going to use this cutout that's in my presser foot and run it right along this previous thread line that I just put down. I'll sink my needle in. I'm going to make a couple back stitch passes here because I tend to put a little tension on the elastic as I'm going around. And by locking this stitch in right away, it will make sure that I don't pull the stitching out while I'm pulling tension starting this next lap. And as you're going around, you're going to take this elastic and just make sure that it's guided right along those other stitch lines. And also you make sure that the notch on the presser foot is following the same path, and you will have a consistent stitch all the way around. Anytime you stop sewing with your sewing machine, make sure that your needle is pressed down through your material. That way it won't get jerked out and you'll lose your place where you were when you were sewing. All right, so now that we're back where we started, I've gone 1 stitch past my starting point. I'm going to go backwards 1 stitch, and then I'm going to raise my presser foot, rotate the brim this direction, and get my cardboard and stick it underneath both layers of elastic and lower the presser foot back down. And we're going to stitch 1 pass this way and another pass to the back. Then all we have to do is trim off that thread and trim off this excess elastic that's hanging here. And I know it's hard to see in the camera with this color of thread, but on the back side you can see where it's all a consistent stitch all the way around for the most part. It's not exactly perfect, but nobody will ever see that. But yep, there you go. That's how you would sew the elastic on the inside of a brim. And I highly recommend, because it makes the hat so much more comfortable, and I think that it adds extra value to it.